So, good morning. I'm Kristen Forster, and this is Crumbs Under the Table. Short talks while I walk my dogs. Trying to make that kind of sound a little bit alliterative or whatever as I start each one. So as some of you can tell, I'm on my favourite bench, the only bench on this walk. It always feels more civilised and dignified if I can sit here for a moment in the lovely weather and just kind of share some ideas. I'm just going to turn the camera around. No. There we go. So Luna is sitting like a kind of true disciple. Yeah, well, whatever. Banjo's gone off over there to explore. Banjo. Yep, there you are. Do you want to sit down as well? Listen to what Daddy's got to say. No? Okay. All right. You just want to get up here. Get really up close. Say hello to everyone. Say good morning. Okay, but don't talk too loudly when Daddy's talking, okay? Yeah, all right. So, yesterday, as some of you picked up, just as I was, well, it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before, wasn't it? Where I was just about to close off what I was saying, and I accidentally hit the button on my selfie stick, which I'm using, but this morning, and so because of this, I'm not turning my selfie stick on. I'm using my old, oh, you can't see it, here you go, this is it. This is my old kind of automatic start the camera and turn it off. I would love it to be able to turn the camera around so I could change angles quickly, but it doesn't do that. But the way I finished the other day, but we lost it because I accidentally hit the button on my stick. I made reference to a little incident with Elisha as a good example of, if you like, of how heavenly wisdom kind of impinges into the kind of modern context that we have to deal with, and how it was the day I've been talking about how the different prophets related to their contexts. So I thought this morning I would kind of share that story because it's one of my favourites. But as we kind of thinking through this morning. I noticed just before I came out that on YouTube I now hit this last month I've hit so I'm now regularly hitting over 6,000 watch minutes per per month, which is not a huge amount, but actually for me it's a nice little milestone to break over 6,000. If you go back before I started doing these, I was hitting only a few 600 minutes a month or whatever. But I kind of made a concerted effort that I wanted to kind of, if you like, leave more teaching ideas and so on online. And these walking with the dogs, they're very kind of loose. I do them from memory. I kind of make the decision normally while I'm starting the walk as to what we're going to talk about and so on. But threaded in amongst all of that, you'll find there are things I've done where we've kind of talked in more detail, and there's some much longer talks on there. At the moment I'm animating my third animated video is in production. It should be out by the end of July for those who are interested in those things. I enjoy doing the animated ones. They become like a hobby. Yep. But they take an awful long time. I spent about an hour and a half last night before I went to bed fiddling around with it. I think I've added 5 seconds. Sorry. Just so you know, I know the full length. It's 19 minutes long, which is twice as long as the previous animated video. But there was a whole load of stuff that kind of fitted together as a flow, as a thread, and so I didn't want to kind of make it shorter. But then when you record the audio, which I've done, and then you start kind of going through and you find ways of kind of animating each word and illustrating it and so on. And I like them to be quite kind of lively, so it takes a bit of creative thinking and so on. So it takes several minutes per second. But I'm still aiming to get this out by the end of July, so watch out for that one. Oh, here come a couple more dogs. Let's say hello to them. Let's turn the camera around so you can... Here we go. Those that really like the dog fix. We've got these two. I don't know these two particularly, but I'm sure they're fine. Look, there's one over there. Morning. One scooting around doing the long run. Luna, stop begging for treats. So anyway, what we were saying there. So the thing the kind of story I wanted to kind of share out of was the story of Elisha. Elisha is one of those great kind of characters to preach from if you ever doing Sunday morning preaches, because so many kind of great colourful incidents. He gets the double portion from Elijah, and actually he does about twice as many things. There's so many good kind of points. But it's interesting. I remember it's quite a few years back now, but it was when I'd kind of been in church leadership, and I've read through the Bible a few times, not thousands. I think it's about 4 times I've done kind of cover to cover. Not purely that. The funny thing is, isn't it? There's a Bible reading scheme called cover to cover, but it's the one that isn't actually cover to cover because you do it chronologically. So you jump backwards and forwards in terms of how the Bible's laid out. Anyway, sorry, that's total non sequitur. I think it was probably when I was doing the cover to cover one or something. I remember reading the story. I thought, I've never spotted that before. It starts in a way that we all remember, because I remember from kind of Sunday school days. It starts with the story of the army kind of coming and surrounding the city, and Elisha's servant looks out and sees them, and he's scared, and Elisha prays and says, "Lord, open his eyes so he can see the armies of God are greater," and so on. And we all know that story. But we somehow miss the next bit, and I think it's because we love the story, which is about, if you like, the things that God has done there. But actually, there is a response from Elisha, which I always find beautiful, and actually is right at the heart. I've not had too many incidents where I've been surrounded by armies and needed to see the armies of the Lord, but there are lots of incidents where you need to know how to respond out of that confidence with wisdom, which kind of fits in with the theme of the last few days. And that's exactly what Elisha does in this context. So the situation is, it refers to the king of Israel, but it doesn't mention which one it is. From the kind of place in the book, it probably is Jehoram, who's Ahab's son. I think that's right. Anyway, yeah. But Elisha has been feeding him messages when raiding parties are coming from the Syrians to attack them. And the Syrians have assumed they've got a spy, and then someone says, no, they've just got a really good prophet. Elisha, the prophets, are really, really effective, and he tells them what to do, and that's how come we keep losing. So the king of the Syrians thinks, well, obviously the thing we've got to do is we've got to deal with the prophet, so we'll send an army to go and capture him. So this army is actually specifically there to capture Elisha. So after praying to open his servant's eyes, and his servant's eyes are open, and he sees the protection of the heavenly hosts, Elisha then prays that the army's eyes will be blinded, and God blinds them. But it's not a kind of total physical blindness, because they don't suddenly all start wandering around going, "Can't see, I can't see." But they kind of lose, if you like, the ability to intelligently understand what they're seeing. We perhaps see something a bit like that with Jesus on the road to Emmaus after his resurrection, where actually the two that he's talking to are actually relatives of his, Clopas and Simon, but they don't actually recognise Jesus. And actually, it's I can't help it because I do lots of psychological development. Is a real phenomenon. You can get a little twitch in the brain that actually allows you to see but not interpret. And it seems that's what, but Hebrew doesn't have a better word for that, so it just refers to them as being blinded. And so Elisha kind of walks out to them. So they're surrounding the city because they're waiting to see if they can tell where the prophet is. And Elisha goes out to them and says, who are you looking for? And they say, Elisha. So he says, oh, follow me. So they can see enough to kind of follow him. And he leads them into Samaria, which is the city, the capital city of Israel at the time. Let's just turn it around, because you've had enough of banjo. Banjo, we can say goodbye to you. So he leads them into Samaria, and they kind of walk in, and then out comes Jehoram, probably, the king of Israel, absolutely thrilled and excited, because suddenly he's captured this army, and he's there with all his troops in the city, and he comes out saying, let me hit them, It basically means kill them, I'm going to kill them, let me kill them. And he calls Elisha father, so he seems to be re-honouring him, which is good. And Elisha says, no way. He says, no, you're not going to do that. It's not like you caught them. He says, what you're going to do is you're going to feed them. Elisha starts by saying bread and water, but then it says, and they gave them a feast. They prepared a feast. So these are the people who come to capture Elisha, but Elisha has somehow, in this credible spirit of peacemaking, has turned it around, but actually has not kind of assumed that they're going to be best buds. He's had to pray, and there's been a certain amount of blindness, and he's one able to walk into that. But Elisha doesn't make, if you like, the Machiavellian most of the situation. He doesn't then kind of lord it over his enemies and triumph over them and kind of stamp all over them. He starts by saying, let's feed them, and they end up giving them a feast, and the Syrians eat with them. And then it says, and they sent them back to their homes and their masters. And they went back, and the Bible just has this simple little statement after that, and said, and after that, the Syrians didn't bother them anymore. And I always thought it's such a fantastic story. Why don't we know this one more? Why didn't I learn this one in Sunday school? Because there's something, if you like, about the wisdom of heaven combined, if you like, with the timing and the confidence that comes from a spiritual connection, that allows us to do things and see solutions that wouldn't be there in the natural. The way that I always like, Bill Johnson often puts in terms of, the story when Abraham's praying, that it's not that God changes his mind so much as he has more options where there is connection between heaven and earth, because part of the way he has made humanity, and he doesn't want to take that responsibility away from us where he can, is he has made us to be the interface of heaven and earth, to be those who mediate what heaven would look like into the situations that we have authority over. And so he doesn't want to kind of, like, in one sense, leave us in a permanently immature state. He wants us to grow into that authority and into that context. But part of that authority is knowing, if you like, where our authority comes from, which means we do it in connection with heaven, which is what Elisha is doing here. He knows from a physical point of view, if the army wants to kill him, they can, except for the fact that somehow he has heaven's support in this, so they're not going to. And so if he's got heaven's support and it's not going to be a violent solution, well, let's pray for blindness, so they don't get what's going on, until such time as I can actually turn it and they can receive the blessing. Because very often people won't receive the blessing out of fear. And very often the bad behaviour is driven out of fear. So somehow we sometimes need to get close enough and at the right moment to be able to deliver what is blessing, but would otherwise be seen as a challenge and as a confrontation. And you think about the modern political scene where actually we have all sorts of people pursuing all sorts of lifestyles, but why are they pursuing those lifestyles? Because they don't know who God is. It's because of the fact that it says they're not grateful. This is Romans, Paul says, because they were ungrateful and didn't acknowledge God. So actually, when we would get into a society like that, which is what we have, and it says, so God hands them over to the folly of their own thinking, and actually we see people trying to make lifestyles, and we see the thing as evil, but it's not so much evil, it's folly, because they've lost the ability to be thankful and acknowledge who God is, and they're not going to receive a blessing that's based on that easily. And so sometimes we need wisdom to get right into the middle of it and right into the situation. But when it comes, it's an incredible peacemaking thing. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers, because they'll be called sons of God. And this is one of those kind of wonderful situations where all these Syrians who expect now to be massacred because they've suddenly realised, what did we just do? We just walked into Samaria because some bloke led us, said he was going to take us to Elisha. And then now suddenly we're here and we realise what we've done, and this is a right mess because we're now surrounded by the armies of Israel, and their kings come out saying they're going to kill us, but then the next thing they know, they're being fed and they've been given a proper feast, and now they're released and sent home. Go your own way. And psychologically, those guys, they never want to fight Israel again. They know what they can do, but also they've been blessed. And so suddenly their attitude is changed and peace comes. And I don't want to try to be too clever by applying it, because we all have these situations every day where, if you like, it's easy to see the conflict and see how the right is not happening, and we've got to make the right happen. But if we fight evil with evil, well, we get more corrupted by the process we're doing it in. The ends don't always justify the means. Sometimes the means are actually more important than the ends. It's to do the right thing in the right way. It's not always to win the decisive battle, but actually with the wisdom of heaven we can turn more of those situations into successes for the kingdom. So Father, I just want to give this morning to you, give today to you with its opportunities, with all of the real things in life that make life interesting, all the mini conflicts, the challenges, and the things that have to be done, the people that work with us, the people who work against us. And Father, just soak us in the wisdom of Elisha. soak us in that wisdom of Elisha, to know those moments when actually there is an opportunity to break through with blessing. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. So it's been good to be here this morning. It's quite nice. I was going to say, this is actually lovely weather for walking dogs. I'm just going to give you a last shot of the view. Here you go, the view. You can't probably see in amongst all of the trees, but we're looking up towards where Cliveden stands. I can just see it, but it's almost impossible, I'm sure, for you to see on the video. And I have two devotedly waiting dogs who are sitting there nice and calmly. Manjo always likes to get close. He's actually beating me with his tail. Now he's recognised that the camera's on him, so he's playing up for it as usual. So yeah, pray you have a great blessed day. I'll probably see you tomorrow. Watch out in July for the next animated video. If you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel, because you watch these on Facebook, most people watch them on Facebook, but I'm trying to build up my YouTube channel. So if you could go on there and subscribe, and occasionally there are things on there that I don't stream, you see. So there'll be more kind of teaching kind of things on there. So if you go onto the YouTube channel and subscribe, it's YouTube/C/Jesus Centered. That would be fantastic, and I'll probably see you tomorrow. Bye.